There I stood, boots sinking into the mud at the edge of what was once a mighty dam, now a raging torrent tearing through the glittering new homes that Stone Creek Homeowners Association had illegally built on my land. Freeze frame, that's me, Elias Thorne, the man who watched a flood erase an entire suburban empire. You're probably wondering how I ended up here, why no one could stop the water, and what drove me to let it all happen. It started with a betrayal, a theft of what my grandfather left me, and a war I didn't start but was damn sure going to finish. When my grandfather, Elias Thorne, passed, he left me more than land. He left me a legacy, a sprawling stretch of wild country, fields wide enough to breathe in, woods thick enough to swallow your secrets, and at its heart, a dam he built with his own hands after surviving a flood that nearly drowned this valley. That dam wasn't just stone and earth. It was a testament to grit, a fortress against nature's wrath, signed over to me in a will as clear as mountain water. For years, I lived quietly, working in town, spending weekends mending fences, walking the dam's crest, watching the seasons paint the hills. Peace, I thought, was mine. Then came the letter, crisp white, stamped with the gold-embossed logo of Stone Creek HOA. I wasn't part of any HOA, my land sat outside town limits, shielded by grandfathered zoning from decades past. Yet the letter claimed my property was now under their community review, thanks to new county maps slipped through a shady municipal vote. Curious turned to furious when I stormed into the next town meeting and saw a slick-haired developer flashing colorful maps, my land swallowed into their Stone Creek expansion like it was never mine. That's when I met Miranda Hale, HOA president, a walking menace with a smile sharp enough to cut glass. She played innocent, head tilted like a puzzled bird, insisting it was all legal, survey error, corrected. I left that meeting with dread curling in my gut. The invasion came fast. Surveyors trampled my fields without a word, neon flag stakes sprouted like weeds, each one a stab at my inheritance. Then the bulldozers rolled in, carving roads through the pasture where Amos taught me to ride. Foundations for 58 luxury craftsman homes went up in sloppy grids before I could blink. I fought back hard. A lawyer, a decent man named Tom Carver, took my case, but even he flinched at the names on the paperwork. County clerks dodged me, filed complaints vanished. Miranda's smile never wavered, her board members nodding like trained puppets. They painted me as the lunatic, the stubborn fool clinging to old deeds. At the next meeting, Miranda, voice dripping with fake pity, suggested I take their generous buyout before progress left me behind. I stood, voice booming, and swore I'd never sell what my family built. The room went silent. That's when it turned ugly. Violation notices piled up on my truck, fines for non-existent code breaches stacked like debt. One morning, I found a sign in my yard declaring my own land a development zone, branding me a trespasser. The sheriff's deputy shrugged, calling it a civil matter. Every door slammed shut. A clerk at the county recorder's office, risking her job, tipped me off. Stone Creek HOA was bankrolling council campaigns, securing zoning exceptions and inspection waivers through backroom deals. I was outgunned, outmaneuvered, outvoted. Every protest I filed met a countersuit threat, accusing me of harassing them. I couldn't win head-on. So I did what Amos would have done, I played the long game. I went quiet, stopped showing up to meetings, let the stakes stay in my fields, nodded politely when Miranda waved from her gleaming black SUV. While they celebrated selling lots like conquerors, I documented everything. Photos of every construction violation, every ignored environmental regulation, every bulldozed tree. I recorded conversations, saved letters, dug up shady zoning approvals from public archives. In Amos' old workshop under the dam, I built a fortress of proof, biding my time. They thought I was broken. They didn't know the land doesn't bend just because you pave it. They didn't understand the dam. 80 years ago, a flood had swept this valley, wiping out homes, fields, entire families. Amos, then a young man, hauled sandbags with neighbors, helpless against the muddy tide. When it was over, he vowed it'd never happen again. No engineer, just stubborn as hell, he spent years building that dam, stone, earth, timber, and sheer will. It held back the mountain's rage, keeping the valley dry while other counties drowned. But time fades memory. The HOA saw the dam as an eyesore, something to flatten for cul-de-sacs and fountains. They paved over drainage channels, rerouted creeks. One day, I watched from the trees as a backhoe tore into the dam's shoulder, not deep, but enough to wound it. I wanted to scream, to fight. Instead, I stayed hidden. They didn't just disrespect the land, they didn't know it. And that was their doom. I stopped maintaining the dam. No more patching leaks, clearing channels, or shoring up cracks. I let debris pile, silt build, pressure simmer. I became a ghost, wandering the woods while they threw barbecues on half-cured patios. When fall rains came early, I sipped coffee on my porch, watching puddles form in their perfect lawns. Winter bled into a soggy spring, and I walked the dam's edge, noting wider cracks, sagging earth where the backhoe had struck. I didn't break the dam, that'd be a crime. I just stopped saving it. Nature doesn't need my help to settle scores. The HOA's arrogance sped things up. Their storm drains clogged, lawns slid into retention ponds, rerouted creeks rebelled, ignoring their blueprints. The first big storms were a warning: sinkholes in unfinished lots, flooded basements. Miranda blamed unseasonal rain, ordering more dirt, more fixes, more fees for homeowners. They ignored the ground trembling beneath them. I stayed silent, nodding when I saw Miranda at the gas station, her smug updates about Stone Creek's success ringing hollow. It wasn't revenge, it was justice, as old as the mountain itself. The rainy season hit like a fist. The first storm rolled in, steady and merciless, pounding the valley until the air hummed with tension. From my porch, thermos in hand, I watched the rain swallow the mountains and mist in Stone Creek. Porch lights flickered like fireflies. I knew the clay would swell, the topsoil would crack, and the dam, wounded, neglected, wouldn't hold. Hour after hour, I walked the old fields, now a patchwork of half-built homes. Cracks split new sidewalks, water pooled in cul-de-sacs, seeping into basements. I passed Miranda's mansion, all columns and faux stone, and saw her in the window, yelling into her phone. Construction crews scrambled, piling sandbags, digging trenches that only worsened the flood. It was almost beautiful, like a tide erasing a sandcastle. The second storm was colder, angrier, roaring down the mountain with a vengeance. The air grew heavy, my skin prickling. The dam groaned, leaks widening into muddy scars. A fist-sized breach spat water, then another. I stood on a ridge, rain stinging my face, as the earth shook with a roar that rattled my bones. The dam gave way, not an explosion, but a slow, brutal collapse. Tons of furious water tore through, shredding trees, reclaiming its ancient path straight through Stone Creek. Homes vanished, roofs floated like debris, streets buckled, swallowing cars and mailboxes. Miranda's mansion held a moment longer, her silhouette screaming on the porch. Then the water hit, liquefying her lawn. The house split, one half sliding into the flood, the other collapsing in a groan of snapped columns. In minutes, Stone Creek was gone. Emergency crews waited in too late, their sirens useless against the mountain's wrath. I watched, dry and calm, heart steady. Guilt tugged, but satisfaction roared louder. I'd warned them, filed notices, sent emails, all notarized and ignored. Legally, I was clear. Insurance adjusters came, poking ruins, denying claims, act of God, they said, negligence, the lawyers countered. Miranda sued everyone, county, developers, me. Nothing stuck. Investigations uncovered her empire of bribes, fake reports, and illegal filings. Homeowners sued, banks folded, Stone Creek's name became a curse. Miranda lost her SUV, her jewelry, her pride, fleeing to a cousin's house, broken. The HOA dissolved in lawsuits and shame. Quietly, I filed for adverse possession. No one fought me. The land, a muddy scar, came back, acre by acre. I rebuilt the dam, hauling stones with old-timers who remembered Amos. It wasn't fancy, but it was strong. I let the fields go wild, creeks find their paths. Deer returned. On a crisp fall day, I planted a cedar post by the highway, hanging a sign, "Welcome to Thorne's Hollow. We respect the land." Below, in smaller letters, "Built by nature, guarded by memory." At dawn, I sat on the dam's crest, coffee in hand, watching the valley glow gold. Scars lingered, a warped manhole, a tilted fence, but nature was patient. I thought of Amos, his hands shaping this land, of Miranda, drowning in her own lies, of the flood that took her kingdom and gave mine back. The mountain rumbled, not angry but content. I raised my thermos to the past, the land, the truth, and smiled as the sun flooded Thorne's Hollow with light.